Lens for the capital. Figures compiled for the programme suggest that in the next 20 years, the ethnic diversity of this city will change dramatically.
For the first time ever, the number of people who class themselves as white British is now a minority in London.
People who identify as white British citizens are now a minority in their capital cities.
White folks are on track to becoming, and I hate to say this, the minority in America.
A new report out by the government shows that by the year 2042, white Americans will no longer represent the majority of the population. That prediction is 8 years sooner than previously expected.
Her kan etnisk norske være i mindretall om 20 år. I 2030.
Children from white families in Birmingham are set to become a minority group for the first time when this year's census is collected in March.
The latest census suggests white British born are now in a minority.
Census Bureau says whites will be a minority.
The latest census suggests that white Brits are now in a minority in London.
And the fact that we are going to become a minority in our own country before 2050, well before 2050 for the younger people.
When the parent culture kind of dissipates, you're left thinking, well, what's going on?
About immigration within the United Kingdom. What are your feelings upon that?
Well, I think it's always been a very open policy, which I think is very admirable of you. But I think at some point there had to be limits to that. But Americans shouldn't be advising on what those limits are. But at some point, I think you do have to limit that immigration because it's a small island, and ultimately,
because I think you're losing your own culture.
Uncle Sam wants to help you diversify your neighborhood, whether you like it or not. Tonight, correspondent Doug McElway tells us about a new interactive effort that some people say is a huge overreach.
It's called Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. It will require the feds to gather data on segregation in every single American neighborhood and remedy it. In every single American neighborhood and remedy it.
Whether you like it or not.
It's important to remember that our country is stronger because of our diversity.
Strive to bring the benefits of diversity to our students, to our school, to higher education, to the state of Texas, and to the nation as a whole.
Now, diversity.
So it's really important that if we get a more diverse profile of councillors at community and so it's really important.
Uncle Sam wants to help you diversify your neighborhood, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not.
So it's really important.
Wesley Clark, as the head of NATO, standing in Europe, said, there's no room for ethnically pure states in Europe. China is still going to be Chinese 50 years from now. Africa is still going to be Africa. Saudi Arabia is still going to be full of Arabs.
Quel est l'objectif? Ça va faire parler, mais l'objectif, c'est relever le défi du métissage. Défi du métissage que nous adresse le XXIe siècle. Ce n'est pas un choix, c'est une obligation, c'est un impératif. On ne peut pas faire autrement, au risque de nous trouver confrontés à des problèmes considérables. Nous devons changer, alors nous allons changer.
You can't have something like that without a plan.
And the task is to bring this minority together in such a way that it makes it impossible for the legacy of whiteness to continue to reproduce itself. The task is to bring this minority together in such a way that it makes it impossible for the legacy of whiteness to continue to reproduce.
The UN definition of genocide is,
and deliberately inflicting on that group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Now, go to any city centre which is inundated with the third world. You will not see any white people in Tower Hamlets. You won't see white people in all parts of Luton. parts of Leicester, all across the country, because they have been driven out. They have lost their right to exist as a culture and a race in their own country.